Underwater hockey is agility.
Underwater hockey is teamwork.
Underwater hockey is endurance.
Underwater hockey is community.
Underwater hockey is adrenaline. Underwater hockey is competition. Underwater hockey is for everyone. We are underwater hockey.
My name is Emma Meldrum. I'm the city's public information coordinator, and I want you to know the things that I know about housing and homelessness in the city. So I've read a lot of Facebook comments lately about housing and homelessness, and I know it's a topic that's on everybody's minds right now. The things I'm going to tell you now are probably not going to solve every problem that our community is facing, but it will make sure that you're better informed about our processes and our systems and how we are able to help people. My goal is to make sure you're informed. So here we go. Let's talk about housing in Cornwall. Whether it's apartment hunting or house shopping, Cornwallites are talking about affordability and availability. We hear you, I read your comments every day. Here's the thing, there are some things that the municipality can do to help, and there's some things that we can't do. In fact, municipalities are quite limited in what they can do in terms of the real estate market. Let's start with what we know. Cornwall is still quite affordable compared to other cities in Canada, but we're hearing stories from folks who feel priced out of the market. When it comes to buying and selling homes, prices are regulated by the market, and even the value of your home, which we use to calculate property taxes, is assessed by MPAC, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. We work closely with MPAC, but they're not a branch of the city. If you're a tenant, you probably know that the city can't regulate how much landlords charge for rent. Most of the rules around landlords and tenants are made by the province of Ontario. What we can do is make sure that tenants know what their rights are. So I've got a short list of things that the city can do to help in terms of housing in Cornwall, and that's item number 1, is making sure tenants know what their rights are. We have a website, cornwall.ca/rent, with information and resources, and we've also distributed a pamphlet to different places in the city. If you want one, leave a comment below, we'll make sure you get one. Item number 2 in the list of things that city can do is the 10-year housing plan. This is one of those long documents that you're probably not going to read, but it is a guiding document that tells our Social and Housing Services Department what local needs and solutions are. You can find it at cornwall.ca/10. Item number 3, construction of new social housing units. You've probably heard us talk about this before because we are quite excited. We have 77 new units going into one apartment building at the corner of McConnell Avenue and 9th Street. We know one building isn't enough to provide safe, affordable housing for the whole community, but we need to start somewhere. So these 77 units are all 1 bedroom, which is a type of housing that's in very high demand in our community. There will be a mix of rent geared to income units, medium market rent, and market rent units. It's a start. There's also been a group working hard in the background. One of Council's strategic plan priorities is safe, affordable housing. So the Mayor's Task Force on Housing has spent the last few months meeting, researching, hearing from experts, and talking about solutions that might work for our community. They're not ready to make recommendations yet, but they will, and that's item number 4. Item number 5 is enumeration. This is a provincial requirement. The city, as the service manager for social services in our area, has to go out and count and connect with as many people experiencing homelessness as possible. And I want to dispel a really big myth here. We aren't waiting until October 27th to connect with these folks. We may have already connected with them, and we encourage them to reach out to us at any time. On October 27th, staff, partners, volunteers, they're going to cover Cornwall and SDNG to connect with as many people as they can, offer them services, and see how they can best be supported. It's a one-day initiative, but it's not the only day that we do this work. If someone is at risk of homelessness or needs housing supports now, I would encourage them to call 613-933-6282, extension 3315. If you don't have access to a phone, if you're in crisis, the hospital is your first place to start. After an assessment, you may be offered a crisis bed in Cornwall. One last thing. I read your Facebook comments, but I'm not a decision maker. Have conversations with your city councilor, with your MP, with your MPP, so that they can hear from you directly as well. There you go. Now you know what I know. I'm going to ask Alex Gatien, a planner with the City of Cornwall, to tell you what he knows as well. Let's dive into development trends, secondary suites, and tiny homes.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Gatia. I'm one of 2 development planners with the City of Cornwall, and today I'm going to talk to you about recent trends in housing and our new zoning bylaw. So Cornwall is currently in the final stages of revising its zoning bylaw. A good way to think about zoning is that the zoning bylaw sets out what you can do, but the market will set out what is actually done. It sets out things like setbacks, land uses, parking requirements, maximum building heights, and things like that. The zoning bylaw splits up Cornwall into different zones. Cornwall zoning in terms of residential zones is not really changing significantly, but I do think it's really worth highlighting that zoning in Cornwall is fairly unique in terms of what it permits. In the decades following the Second World War, virtually all cities in Canada and the United States adopted zoning bylaws that restricted small-scale multi-unit housing. So things like duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. As just one example, over 60% of Toronto is zoned exclusively for single detached houses. But Cornwall's pretty different. You can actually build up to a fourplex at 80% of the residential lands in the city, which allows sort of a small-scale infill development as well as family-friendly apartment buildings. Housing types like this are generally referred to as the missing middle because they're missing from most cities. And a lot of other cities are spending a lot of money to try and bring them back. But Cornwall never made them illegal, which is, I think, very interesting and worth celebrating. Now I'll talk about some of the recent trends in development in Cornwall. Development in Cornwall is still mostly detached and semi-detached houses, but we're seeing a considerable increase in purpose-built rental housing, particularly in the downtown. The redevelopment of the long vacant corner at Pitt 2nd will bring 44 rental units to downtown, and there are also a number of smaller projects underway. There are also 2 former school buildings that are currently being redeveloped into rental housing, which is both more sustainable than new build construction and can be completed faster. Another thing that we're also seeing a lot more of are the addition of secondary units or accessory apartments. It's the same term. And this is applying in both new build housing as well as existing housing. So changes to the Planning Act in 2019 meant that all municipalities must now allow 1 apartment in the main dwelling and 1 apartment in an accessory building. To date, no one has actually built one in an accessory building in Cornwall yet. However, I hope to see someone actually manage to do that soon. Finally, one thing that we're asked about often is tiny houses. Are they allowed in Cornwall? Yes, they've always been allowed. Cornwall does not have a minimum house size, but many other municipalities do. Maybe you can be the first to build one. I'm Alex, thanks for listening to me talk about planning, and if you're the first person to build a tiny house in Cornwall, I'll bring you a housewarming gift.
How are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Not too bad. If I were to say the word climate change, what's the first word that comes to your mind?
Well, the first word that comes to my mind is wildfires and floods.
Is that happening in one place of the world, or is that happening in many places around the world?
In many places around the world.
And so we can agree that you're just a little bit younger than me, right?
Yeah.
What are your feelings towards the future that you're coming into?
Yeah, I feel like I have extra work to do whenever I get older.
In the future, we're gonna have to think about a little bit more than just our homework and our groceries. We're gonna have to think about a little bit beyond that. My mom and my dad are from Haiti, and so I get to hear phone calls from back home. What's the country of origin for your parents?
My country of origin for my parents is Pakistan.
Okay, and back home in Pakistan, what kind of things are you hearing about climate change?
I'm hearing there's a lot of wildfires, the heat is crazy over there, and that there's almost a lot of floods there too.
Locally here in Cornwall, we have a survey, and it's got a bunch of questions on there. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So based on what you know, do you feel that the City of Cornwall is doing enough for climate change? Could they be doing more, or are they doing less than enough?
Like they can just do like a little bit more.
Where would you say that climate change is impacting an area a lot?
The areas that are way more hotter than us.
Sure.
And the areas that are also like have like way more water than us.
Those places that have way more water and are way more hotter. If Cornwall got a little bit hotter, would that be a problem?
Yes.
If our shorelines, if the water came up a little bit, imagine if I had a house on the shoreline and the water was starting to come up onto my lawn, would that be a problem?
Yeah.
So if there are 3 things that you could talk to anybody about, what's the first thing that you want to talk about regarding climate change?
I'm scared about the polar ice melting because then all the wildlife that's up there will get like, there will be in a dangerous situation there.
What do you know about polar bears?
I know that polar bears like need the cold habitat to live.
You think that their habitat's staying the same?
No, not at all.
So do you seek your information out on Google?
Well, not all the time.
Do you talk to your teachers about your ideas?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, so who else do you talk to about climate change?
My brother,
Yeah?
and I think that's it.
What is one thing that anybody can do regarding climate change?
They can wash their clothes in cold water and then hang them dry if possible, because in the wintertime, like, you know, we can't just hang them dry.
What's another tip that you can give an old bird like me about climate change?
Well, you should use bicycles instead of cars, because the gas that's like in the cars will go up in the air that we breathe. That's oxygen, which will make us harder to breathe if like the gas is like just coming.
You're not wrong. So what do you think of the Cornwall bicycle paths that they have on the road?
I think that's actually way better, because I asked my mom about that and she's like, yeah, those are like the bike roads. I'm just like, wow, that's actually pretty smart.
Have you used the bike paths, like the ones on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah? When you talk to your friends, do you talk to them about climate change?
Well, sometimes I do, but then sometimes I don't, because we actually one time had a conversation about tornadoes, because I don't know where this place was, but there was a tornado that was actually like near Cornwall, and I told my friend about it, and she's like, wait, really? And then I showed her the video and she's like, wow, those houses are being very like damaged.
Could you see yourself being the kind of person that would speak out in support of the environment?
Yes, I definitely would want to be, because I want like next generations, maybe I'm going to be a bit older, I want the next generations like to know like about like climate change. I want them to have like a actual life. Like I want them to actually have a job, go to university, like all that fun stuff.
Do you know about the 100-kilometer diet?
No.
I mean, you got to shop within a 100-kilometer range, right? So if you think about buying something on Amazon and it comes from like another country, and then it gets on a big ship, and then it gets into an airplane, and it gets on a little plane, and then it comes into like a little car, and then it comes to your house. Think about how many different emissions that it's going through. Whereas if you do a 100-kilometer diet, you're only using your car to go in one area versus having all these different points coming through. How do you feel about secondhand clothing?
I feel like thrift shopping is even better for the environment, because then other people can use your clothes. Because I've actually heard in my whole friend group, people are actually going to Valley Village, like vary a lot to get some clothes, and like their clothes are actually really good.
Okay, so would you consider maybe doing some thrift shopping in the future?
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
a little bit cheaper, a little bit more stylish.
Yeah.
What else could we do at home regarding climate change? What do you think?
You know those like yogurt boxes, right? So you know like some people like don't care about washing them out and just throw them in the garbage. I feel like you should just wash them out, like have the time to wash it out and put it in the recycling, because whenever you put in the recycling, I feel personally good about it, because I'm actually doing something like for like the life around me.
It's important to wash out your recycling to make sure that as it goes down the line, it's clean and ready to go into its respective collected area. We'll take a pizza box, for example. A pizza box made out of cardboard should be something you can recycle, right?
Yes, but the grease.
That's right! Keep going. What happens?
The grease, it stays on the box, and some people just like, you know, there's like a line in the middle, so you can just cut it in half.
Yep.
Because one side's greasy, one side's not greasy. So they tell you to put the not greasy side in the garbage, and the greasy side.
So the not greasy side, that's going to go in the recycling, and the
Yeah.
greasy side is going to go in the garbage.
Yes.
Wintertime. Do you open your windows or you keep them closed?
Oh, I keep them closed. Okay, I wanted to say this really badly.
Tell me.
So in the summer, instead of blasting the air conditioning, you could just like open a few windows, and that would actually help with like the other environment. But in the winter, you can just wear like a very warm sweater instead of putting the heat on.
So instead of relying on the house to heat and cool us, we can take more accountability. Wear less clothes in the summertime, create a breezeway kind of with our windows and our doors, and then in the winter time, wear more sweaters, maybe some slippers on the feet because cold floors and stuff, but don't turn that thermostat all the way up, eh? You've heard about Earth Day, right?
Yes, I've heard.
What happens on Earth Day?
Well, on Earth Day, I see a lot of people in my area like picking up garbage in our area. I also pick up garbage in the school because we have like an area that's there's a bunch of garbage there, a bunch of pollution there.
So on Earth Day, we also kind of celebrate by dimming our lights or shutting off a lot of our lights or keeping our lights very, very low. In your house, when you leave a room, do you leave the light on?
No, I always close my light. My sister and like everyone else in my family always leaves.
Very good for that, eh? Why would it be important for me to shut the lights after me?
It's because less electricity was being used, and actually I'm the last person to leave the house to go to school.
Right.
Because like the changing the time. So my dad and my mom were like, always turn the lights off before you leave.
And do you listen?
Yes.
Hafsa. So I'd like to thank you on behalf of everybody that's participating in this production. As a young person, you're reminding not only myself, who's an older person, of the things that I could be and should be doing, but also the people that are watching. You're actually reminding them of what they have been doing, and maybe for those that aren't doing the right things, you're also encouraging them as a young person that they have the capability to do it too. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time and speaking with us. And for you folks at home, we are politely asking you to take the survey. I want you to visit haveyoursaycornwall.ca and do the climate change survey. My name is Lee Theodore on behalf of the River Institute and all those that are taking part in this project. We like to thank you for your time, consideration, energy, and attention, and take the survey. It'll help us all be better people in the future sooner than you think. See you soon.
I am Simon Mclinden. I'm a project manager with ACC Futures, and I work with the City of Cornwall and the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne to manage the Portlands. Portlands is a 16-acre parcel of land that was divested to MCA and the city in 2016, and it's ready and primed for remediation and redevelopment. The harbour building came down for a multitude of reasons. The building itself was a little old, a little derelict, and was not safe generally for the public. It was becoming a gathering place that we didn't really need it to be, and it served no purpose. It would be more expensive to redevelop the building than it would be to tear it down and start again. So we've recently conducted a survey, and we'll be doing more questions on behalf of the city and MCA. To find out what can go here. What we do know is that it can be tourism, recreation, residential, or commercial. Can't be industrial anymore. And yeah, we're waiting for the public feedback, and then some decisions will be made after that. People should care about this project because not only is it on the waterfront in the primest piece of land in Cornwall, but it's a monumental agreement and project between a First Nation and a municipality and two neighboring communities that could jointly stand to benefit from this project, the members of public from both communities. And it's pretty monumental in the sense that it is the only project of its kind like this in Canada that we know of. This is 5 Questions, and I am Simon Mclinden.
Recycling is the best option for the waste that we generate. There is some work that needs to be done by the manufacturers and the producers of the recycling packaging here. But us as residents also have a responsibility to make sure that the waste that we do generate ends up in the appropriate location and not in the landfill site. It's as easy as putting an item in the blue bin and rather than your black bag or your garbage container. That's really how simple it is to make a difference for recycling. The city only has 3 diversion programs. That is definitely a myth. The city has over 12 drop-off locations here at the City of Cornwall's landfill site where we actively divert as much waste as we can. Now with our diversion facilities here on site, we're really relying on the customers and the residents who come in to kind of do their part and actively sort the waste on site here, and not just take the easy way out and throw it in the garbage composition pile or our garbage bins or up at the tipping face. There's so many items that we see that end up at our tipping face that are indeed still recyclable. We're always looking to find new ways to recycle more and more material. Our goal is to get to a zero waste economy by 2050. The more diversion programs we offer and the easier we make it for the residents is going to go a long way in extending the landfill and diverting as many items as possible. Cornwall's recycling program is behind the times. That is definitely a myth. So here in the City of Cornwall, we're operating a single stream recycling program where you can put everything into a single blue box. So I have to give full credit to our processing and sorting staff for finding new compositions of material to divert, such as plastic bags. Last year in 2020, we went from 17 tons in 2019 to almost 300 tons of plastic bags that we were able to recycle in 2020. So to say that we're behind the times, I wouldn't say we're behind the times. We're offering new materials that other municipalities don't even recycle yet. So I'd say that we're not quite cutting edge, but we're definitely at the forefront of the recycling industry right now. A landfill and a dump are the same thing. So that is definitely false. And right now we're actually driving around. We're on top of the active landfill and where it's closed. And I'll just slow down a little bit here. You can see this piece of infrastructure beside me is actually a gas well. So what that does is that's actually collecting all of the methane gas that's created in the landfill site. It's all put under vacuum under these wells, and we collect it and we send it down to our brand new flare building where we burn off all of the landfill gas. What that does is it makes it so that methane gas is not so potent and it's not such a nuisance. But it also, if we didn't have this gas well system, all of that gas that we're collecting would just be going straight into the atmosphere. Another piece of equipment or piece of infrastructure that we have that really differentiates a dump from a landfill is we have underground piping systems that collects all of the rainwater and all of the juice that is created from the garbage decomposing. We collect all of that, sample it, and we send that to the wastewater plant for proper processing. So none of that makes it back into the environment. It's a very well designed and a very well engineered system here that we have on site, and we have to keep on top of it and we have to keep maintaining it. In the case of a dump, what a dump is essentially what it sounds like. A dump is just a pile of garbage that you back your truck up or your car up and you throw everything out on top. Those are very popular, historically going back, but we've become more environmentally conscious and more responsible as municipalities in the province of Ontario and Canada as a whole. And there's now strict regulations that prohibit us from just simply dumping garbage on the hill. We have to have these engineered pieces of infrastructure to minimize our environmental impact and to make sure that we don't contaminate the surrounding areas for future generations to come. Organic waste is actually good for the landfill site. So that's a myth. We have a finite amount of capacity remaining here at the City of Cornwall's landfill site, and we really don't want to divert it with organic material, something that is so easy to divert, and that we're not reinventing the wheel by starting to think about diverting organic waste. If we can keep it out, the longer that we can keep our landfill operating, that's a benefit to the community as a whole, and it's a benefit to every resident, to have this resource at our disposal, and it's also a benefit for us residents' pocketbook at the end of the day, because of the financial implications it costs to open a new landfill and close this landfill. The other side of it is that the organics and organic material, especially food waste, contains about 50 to 80% moisture content. What that means is that's going to really break down, and that's where most of our methane is created here. So not only if we eliminate that, we'll eliminate some of the unpleasant smells that this facility generates. We'll be able to extend the life of the landfill, and we're also cutting out on the greenhouse gases. The methane that is created from the organic waste here creates methane, which is one of the most powerful greenhouse gases. And it's the primary gas that's created from the decomposition of organics. So if we can keep that out of the landfill site and treat that separately, there's possibilities we could possibly even collect that methane and turn that into a renewable resource down the road, or turn it into pure hydrogen and compress it into hydrogen cylinders. There's so many tons of options that we're looking at right now. 30% of our recycling, our blue box recycling, ends up in the landfill. So that is definitely false. Here in the city of Cornwall, our blue box residue, so the residue is, we collect all of your recycling, we sort it, we send as much as we can to market. What is left over that can't be recycled is called residue, and unfortunately that does have to come to the tipping phase to be disposed of. But we're running at less than 3%. We're running at a 2.7% contamination rate or residue rate right now. So what that means is that we've taken in from the City of Cornwall, the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, North Stormont, South Glengarry, and South Stormont, we've taken in 5,100 tons so far this year. And we've only sent 114 tons to the tipping phase. What that equates to is 2.7%, and that 2.7% is really, we don't have any means to recycle it. It's not recyclable material. That is your contamination. It's your kitchen knives that you put in the blue box. It's your diapers that go in the blue box. It's your pots and pans, electronics, all that kind of thing that if you put it in the blue box and you think you're doing a good thing, but when it gets to our facility, not only do our sorters have to sort it, but it ends up going into the landfill. Electronics, for instance, we have an electronics recycling program, but if you put it into the blue box, that material isn't able to make its way to the appropriate location and ends up being in the landfill sites. We're always looking for more compositions and more different types of materials to divert. We're always looking for new ways, new initiatives. If the residents have any initiatives, I mean, feel free. If you've seen something innovative or something cool, please send us an email at wm@cornwall.ca and let's get the conversation going. We're always open to new ideas too. If you see something, if you're from a different municipality where they may have done something a little bit different, feel free to give us a call and we'll have a conversation. This might be something that we're aware of. It might be something that we're not aware of. But again, we're operating at 2.7%, and I would like to even get that lower than 2.7%. One dirty container in your blue box will contaminate the entire blue box and make all of the contents of it garbage. So that is another one that is false. One single item or a couple of items in your blue box does not contaminate the rest of the blue box if you don't rinse it out. We should say that you should rinse it out. Not only is your recycling actually sorted manually by residents of the City of Cornwall here at the City of Cornwall's material recovery facility, but the cleaner that you can make your recycling, you're also guaranteeing that we get a higher revenue for it. And what we use that revenue for is we use that to actually offset the costs of running the program on the tax base. So your taxes will actually be lower if you recycle more and rinse your materials out better. But to say that one item would make the rest of your blue box garbage, that is definitely a myth.